It is 5 o'clock. So we'll call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the public input. You said that no one wrote in. Correct. So we have to ask if there's anyone from the public here to speak. That is a no. We will close the public input portion and move on to administrative matters. First item on the agenda is the park ordinance.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is the, oh, there was 2 meeting minutes.
Yes.
Sorry, it's just no. So we're gonna take that motion for the standard meeting minutes, and then there was a special meeting minutes as well. Do we get a motion for that one?
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
On to vouchers. Questions, comments?
I have.
I know, they look good to me. I move we approve the vouchers.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Last on the administrative matters is the court report.
You have a written report in your packets. I'll highlight a few things and answer any questions that you have, but Stewart Park parking lot will be repaved soon. We've approved that already. Their documents are all taken care of. We're having a pre-construction meeting with them in another week or so, so we'll have a better date once that meeting gets set. On the recreation side of things, summer registration is fully underway. This week, yesterday, last year's intern, Mara DiCarlo, started for us full-time. She graduated this past weekend, so that was the replacement as the recreation supervisor for when Skylar left. So we've welcomed her aboard this week. The summer camp director met with with Jill and as well with the principal of Frank Hammond about some getting ready and trying to expand and meet some bigger numbers with the day camp, which we were able to do. So we have opened up a few more opportunities there, and some of the weeks have already backed out and filled. So we're doing real well with the summer day camp program. The part-time staff interviews are still going through. We're finalizing everything at the pool. The pool got filled last week. The spring tennis lesson classes are underway. Speaking of the pool, on the maintenance side of things, there was some patching that Kevin and his crew had to do out there in the deep bay, but that's been taken care of before we filled it, so that was a good thing. Over at Centennial was discovered that there is a grease trap that no one knew was there. So it's been being built for the last years since that building was there. So luckily, Public Works came over with their Vector truck and was able to help us clear that out. But that was something that nobody knew was there. So we were kind of found it from clear down a different floor drain, came across it, but luckily it was full, but it wasn't to the point where it created any other issues other than that. But we're glad that we found it when we did. So. Also in the report last month, you had asked about the Jenbacher engine. We have the numbers in there. So for the last month, we ran it for the hours that are reported there were the hour counts. So we ran it though for a combined 273 hours in last month. That big 60,000 rebuild is coming up. So you can see where as of May 4th, we were at 54,336 total hours. So that's the decision we have coming up here probably within the next year, whether what the next step is on that particular engine out there. Megawatts that were produced for the month was at 155. We basically get a megawatt is 1,000 kilowatts. It's approximately 16 cents per kilowatt is what we get paid for the power that's produced by NIPSCO. So last month we got for the month of April, actually, it was about a $25,000 payment from NIPSCO to the town for the generator. Golf has picked up, especially with the last hot week after some crummy time with all the rain. So thankfully that has picked up again. And we've taken off out there. The driving range is definitely slow with the rain as well. The leagues are all running and they're at capacity, so that's a good thing for us. The concession stands out of community have been running for the ball fields. Those are underway. And we're happy to have that all up and running, and they are taking credit cards out there for now. So hopefully, one of the issues that does come up, I had on the first page of this report that I'll highlight at this point, the idea about, we're investigating the idea of running fiber line to that particular park to give us better connection. Right now, we have 100 megabit Wi-Fi connection from the park that goes to the top of the community hospital that connects anything in the park that is on the network. So that's all of our security cameras, all of our point of sale systems, the admissions, the count, the computers at the pool. When the pool and everything is in full bore, it slows down. And I think that's why last year, that's why the concession stands got to the point where they started to make it cash only, because it was taking so long to swipe a card and have to send over that network. So that's something we are investigating to try to get better, consistent and quicker service out there for all those things. So, however, the idea of running fiber is quite costly. An initial line just to run it into the park is about $40,000. To run it and split it and run to the pool, Triple Play Cafe, and the social center is upwards of $70,000. So we're trying to see what other options are out there, talking to Impact, talking to Midwestern Electric, and seeing what our opportunities are to get us better connectivity out there.
Mark, are there any options on, there's been a lot of, I see it out there all the time with mobile cash register, so to speak. Have we explored any of that sort of technology?
They,
as well as a cheaper alternative?
Indigo does have a, they went to tablets this year too, in the concession stand, and one tablet in each stand has a cellular connection. So that's kind of their fail-safe backup if nothing else. And I think that's the difficulty there is, do you decide to, run that exclusively with that as a cellular connection, which would help them to do that. I think our more difficulty is going to be as we add more and more cameras maybe over time to live stream that, if you will, back to the police department or back to our offices where we can pull up the cameras that are at the pool and so forth. That's the bandwidth it's just taking up a lot of that same bandwidth that they're fighting for the same bandwidth, if you will, whether it's swiping a card and sending that through the system to get the purchase made.
It's like when your kids on the Xbox when you're trying to work.
You got it. Sounds like it's so we're investigating. We're going to keep looking and see if we can find it. Just that we're fortunate that we do have that major fiber line that runs on Kelvin Avenue. So, and that basically runs to Town Hall. So I mean that is a great opportunity that most other communities don't have. But unfortunately, it's taking it into the park and making that final connection. So. Other than that, I think that's about everything, unless you have any other questions.
How are we doing on summer help?
Pretty good. I think from the maintenance side of things, we'd like to have maybe one or two more part-timers. We do have a full-timer that has been out on injury leave. He's been out for a few months now, so hopefully that's kind of set us back a little bit. But otherwise, on the maintenance side of things, we're doing okay. We're getting by. Grass started popping here now, so it's keeping up with that. But on the recreation side, we'd like a few more at the pool between lifeguards and missions people.
I made an announcement yesterday at a meeting that there's potential employment. If you know any neighbors or your child is interested in working, contact.
And we'll also share with Indigo anyone that comes in, especially on the younger side, that to put them in the concession stands. That maybe that young side that I think they always like to almost be overstaffed, and knowing that kids are gonna move on or decide that I don't like this, or maybe they get something better. So always having that backup. So.
Question on the parking management agreement. You have here looking implemented on June 1st, which is very interesting. Yes, that's like 2 weeks away. Are are we gonna post any signage to let residents know, register? Are we gonna give them a time frame or?
Yes, is the answer. I just found out this afternoon, I'm sorry, this morning, when I met with one of the representatives came up to Florida and met us out there along with Midwestern Electric. And they did tell us that June 1st is not gonna be met. There's no way to get this all done in place, which I kind of was expecting, wanted to hear it. So that was the first time that I've heard that today. So I will be verifying when and how soon of a date that they will have in place. But the intention is to know exactly what it is in place so we can have that defined date of when does this begin? What date is it going to actually start so we can get the word out appropriately to everybody? I'm glad we didn't publicize June 1st because obviously it's not going to be that. And I don't want to scare and keep people away if it's not being charged. I think that some people are going to say, well, I didn't get a pass yet, so I'm not going to go. So we want to make sure to get the word out. I am hoping that with partnering with Public Works to have the construction message boards, at least that week or two right before it does start, whatever implementation date, and have that right out in front of each entrance to each parking lot is the big messages to have that. I'd also like to, any other ways that we can, definitely what I'm going to tell people is the #1 place, town website, best place to visit. If we can get it in the news you can use, that's great, but that is a little bit, there's a time schedule there to get it prepared by the time it gets printed and it hits homes. There's a lot of lag time in that. So, but we definitely will use that with our social media. The police department has a newsletter that they send out. That they told us we could put stuff in there with that. So any way that we can get the word out, we're going to try and do it. So.
Thank you.
Anything else? Board report?
All right. Items for discussion, car show event report.
I'm gonna cover this for Jill. She's home with an emergency, and just wanted to give a big thanks to a lot of you who were there and helped us out as judges, and everything really went well. We had 189 cars participate this year. 136 were judged, 53 were in the grass area that were separate from that. We estimated attendance to be at 2,000 for the entire day. And overall, from a financial standpoint, we came out ahead, so that's always a good thing. Almost to the tune of $5,000. So couldn't have been done without all the volunteers, the sponsors, and everybody else that was involved. But we lucked out with weather because I think it was the first day the sun came out in about 10 days right before that. So that was good to have that.
Yeah, the staff did a great job.
Yeah, I say the same. It was a fun event. It always is.
Yeah.
It's nice to see people getting back. to
Well
normal.
organized.
My only question is on t-shirts. So we got a whole bunch of t-shirts sitting around now.
Not
What
too
happened?
Not too bad. We did good.
It picked up later in the day because I was worried about that earlier today when I saw the pile and Janice was at that table, so she knows.
Okay.
Just tell them
I'll
that.
bet, a little bit.
He is on a fixed income now. He'd like the extra.
He wants to buy a couple, wants to sell it.
Well, if I
It's
read
got a
this right, wait a minute. It
Half
cost
price.
$2,100 for the t-shirts and we made $610.
Every person who registers gets a T-shirt. If they pay if they register their vehicle, so they get a T-shirt as part of that price. So not
Not in
only
the
are
past, the judges got.
Yeah, but we didn't get any of them. It's a tag.
Yeah.
It's got a tag.
Something was coming, I just.
We did get them before.
Yeah.
Kind of early.
Is there a motion? Is there a motion?
He's retiring after this year, so he needs
Is there a motion?
I had to buy one for my.
No, I just wondered about these
husband.
scrap.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean, it's like,
I didn't get
you know, we're spending more than we're getting, so, but
Yeah.
that explains it, okay.
Joking.
That's all.
Joking. Fish.
But
We have plenty that are there.
Take a small.
One for each other. No.
Yeah, it was a good event.
Yeah.
It was fun to, the numbering, probably because of the amount of turnout, but the numbering got a little crazy. It was a little difficult to find some cars.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, some of the numbers were switched, you know,
Yeah.
the number we had on our sheet was different than the number that was on the car.
Oh,
okay.
Well, the parking, like, it was supposed to go a certain way, and then they switched it, and it sort of threw.
There was a
us
couple
back.
cars that snuck in, friends that went and
Yeah.
parked over by their
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
shooting
it was
them
really,
out, and-
yeah, it was really, that was a little trying, but other than that, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Good job.
But I mean, in the past, how many cars? Because it seemed like.
Last year, we actually even did better last year. We had a lot to
We had
show up
like
the day of.
227 last
Really?
Yeah,
year.
we did turn away this year because of the grass area. When we started getting to the back, it started getting wet. And we said 10:30, we're done.
Yeah.
So we probably could have gotten more if it was a little better dry over there. But we made that, there was a lot of them who said, I don't want to pull my car in that grass.
Right.
Okay, so.
All right, next we have Saxon Partners additional preliminary proposal.
Yes, Gary Werfel is here as part of Saxon Partners. I also have a memo that I put together and shared that with you. Gary,
I have some, yes,
Pass out
new
the
handouts.
stuff
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
have. Start distributing.
It's just some supplemental material that
Thank you.
is updated as of today.
Thanks. All right, yeah, classes. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
I have two, I'm gonna keep one of the two.
Yeah, yeah. It's fine. Well, yeah, you can do that.
Same information you distributed at the planning commission.
Yeah, it's, I just added a couple graphics to it, but I can email it. Okay, thank you. Where would you like me?
Wherever here, or if you want to stand at the mic here, that'll be recorded better.
I
With
think
that,
the-
I'll turn it over to you.
I think the easiest way to do this might be just to walk through the graphics.
Okay.
What I'd like to accomplish tonight is to be able to get a kind of preliminary conditional approval on how our site development plan is going to affect Evergreen Park. That's probably the biggest issue. So with I'm going to walk through the graphics. Figure 1B shows the entire site, the former Lansing Country Club. We are developing 59 acres, which is the lower southeast quadrant you see there. The way that we go to 4A is just shows the zoning. The zoning for that site is all CD4B. And if you go to 4B and 4C, 4B is a comprehensive site plan, phase site plan. We have, this has all been presented to Plan Commission. We have 3 phases of development. The first phase is all of our off-site infrastructure, which is an extension of Fisher Street on the north. A new roadway called Maple Leaf Boulevard that comes in from the southeast that connects Maple Leaf Crossing to our site on the south. And then phase 2 would be the first phase of vertical development, which is 300,000 square feet of commercial activity. And phase 3 would be another 420,000 feet. All as of right, current zoning would actually be below allowable density a little bit. If you go to 4C, I think it's a little better graphic representation because this pulls in Fisher Park, Evergreen Park on Fisher Street. So the concept here, Fisher Street, the town right of way continues going to the west past Manor Avenue, all the way to the Illinois state line. Of course, right now it stops at Manor in the intersection of Timmerick. What we are proposing is that we take the Fisher Street extension, bring it past Manor down into the site, which means we need to reconfigure Timmerick Drive. And we did a number of engineering studies on that, traffic studies, looking at various configurations. The first one was a pretty elaborate roundabout, which looked good on paper, but when we started analyzing that, it failed because of number of pedestrian crossings, traffic crossings, added too much linear feet of new roadway surface. And we felt this offers a better possibility, showing more green space and better connectivity. I'll get back to this in a minute because we'll look at some close-ups. 4E, and what's driving, a big part of what's driving Evergreen Park redesign is the ability to look at the regional transportation network and focusing on Greenway connectivity. Our site has really become the last mile connector between the Pennsy Greenway system in Indiana and the Cook County Forest Preserve District system in Illinois. We have had discussions with the town of Munster the Village of Lansing, and the Metropolitan Planning Association of Chicago, looking at various ways to make this happen. And we have offered that connectivity, and it seems like everybody is on board. This will result in one of the largest Greenway network systems in Midwest America. It's a pretty extensive system. So if you look at, let's go to 4F. I think you get a little better idea of what the close-up area looks like. So what we've tried to do on this graphic, this is a new one, Mark, that I haven't given you before, but we were looking at the new park and green open space areas that will be created with the development plan, because that's a big cornerstone of what our plan is. Number one is Evergreen Park. Number two, another existing playground, that's Kiwanis Park. But we have 6 additional new opportunities. Number 3, we're calling Kenmara Park. Kenmara is going to be the name of our development. We see to be privately maintained, privately held, publicly accessible. But we don't see it really to be a park for people to reside and sit. They probably won't have, it'll be more like a very nicely landscaped entry into a corporate business center. But nonetheless, it'll be open green space that kind of connects to Evergreen. Number 4, you can't really see now because that Pennsy Greenway, because of the fencing and all the overgrown landscape along that fence, you can't really see the lake that much from the Greenway, but we intend to open that up so that the views in the lakefront is part of what becomes the existing Pennsy Greenway. Number 5, we expect to take the Greenway all the way from Calumet 2 points west into Illinois, along another town west of right-of-way, which would be another access point to the lakefront, and eventually connect into Illinois. Number 6 is the extension of the Pennsy Greenway from this area going southeast to Maple Leaf Crossing and to Centennial Park. Number 7 will be an internal park and lake that we're creating that'll be part of our site plan. Number 8, of course, is the additional greenway and park space that will result from the connection to the Cook County Forest Preserve District. We focus on 4G. That's really the discussion at matter here. This shows what Timrick Drive in a reconfigured sense will look like as it curves. We're proposing we curve it around through existing Evergreen Park to Manor. And then we own 3 residential buildings that we acquired for making all this happen. It's 242 Timrick, 236 Timrick that are on the lower left, and 8845 Manor, which is on the right. Our proposal would be to convey ownership of those parcels to the town and use this design as a way to expand Evergreen Park, knowing full well that it's a bifurcated park. However, what's really driving this will be the Pennsy Greenway connectors that will run adjacent to it and next to it. So we kind of see this more as a park that allows people who are using the Greenway connectors to sit, rest, relax, just make it part of that Greenway experience. 4H is, and we have done some very extensive landscape studies for Fisher Street, Evergreen Park, for the whole project. We haven't shared a lot of those because they were just concepts for us to kind of understand how do we want to approach this. So we use the firm of Gensler Architects to help us think about what this area could look like. Excuse me. And they have a number of concepts and ideas that they came up with. So that's the purpose of that graphic. And then if you look at 5B, C, and D, these are basically our engineer drawings that show what these roadway connectors are going to look like, how they're built to town standard, how they integrate with our site plan, And again, this has all been presented to town council in the past. Well, 5C pretty well shows the areas that are affected. So Evergreen Park right now is, I think you would agree with us, and I think it was even in one of your park surveys that it's really an underperforming park. We'd like to see it improved a little bit. We think we can help by giving additional open space to make that happen and to get these Greenway connectors done. So in the end, it'll be about 1.15 acres of green space. And 5D simply shows what our connector looks like southeast to Calumet and Maple Leaf Crossing. So with that, I'll just open it up to questions. But again, the proposal is to gain your concurrence to add space to Evergreen Park, reconfigure it, and it would require some rezoning from residential to civic space to allow that to happen. And we're prepared to do that.
The markets in our budget to increase maintenance of these areas.
Yeah, it's not, the current Evergreen Park is just over 1/2 acre. And it's our second smallest park after Rotary Park at Columbia Ridge Road, where the sign is there. It is the same exact size as Kiwanis Park, which is about 500 feet away from Evergreen Park. But to go from 1/2 acre to 1.5 acres, it's not a huge expense to make that change. However, in Gary's letter, he also had, offered to keep those other green spaces and they could potentially maintain them themselves if that's something that.
What's the speed limit on Timber?
35.
35?
It's residential.
That's a big problem that kind of came up in consideration on the engineering side, is that nobody follows the speed limit on Timber Drive. It has become a thoroughfare and a problem. And I think that you'll find that just about all your residents in that area will say the same thing. So what we think could really happen is by reconfiguring Timberrick and Evergreen Park, we do a 4-way stop at Manor, Fisher, and then that access park to 400 Fisher. This really would put a halt to the traffic issue.
My only concern would just be a safety issue, and then separating the green park green spaces. So if you have any activity, strictly just from a safety standpoint, and issues on crosswalks and things of that nature. What type of crosswalk sort of plan do you envision there?
Well, clearly, as you come down Timerick and as it bends to the east to hit Manor, that would be a stop sign, generous crosswalk there.
Manor has the right of way, right? It doesn't have a stop sign.
It will have a stop sign.
Oh, Manor will too.
So
Oh, no, Manor will not.
Yeah.
Manor will be through to Fisher.
Fisher, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But if you're going to cross on the west side of Manor, so that would be the safest.
Right, so if Manor does not have a stop sign, and you're coming in and you make that turn on Timber, that's that like safety concern, just the speed that, I don't think people are just gonna slow down because you separate that. They're gonna go.
Yeah, but the question is how much southbound Manor traffic would be turning right on Timerick? I mean, it's not a
No, I mean,
it's
coming
not a
down-
through
so you're
pathway.
coming down west for Fisher, if you go north on Manor, you make a quick, there's no stop sign either way. From Fisher to Manor, would there be a stop sign?
Well, yeah, I see Fisher and Manor to be four-way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Fisher and Manor would be,
Yeah.
okay.
I would say four-way because it's hard to see, but if you take Manor coming south, it aligns with the driveway to 400 Fisher, that light industrial complex that has CrossFit and some other things in there. So there's a lot of kids around there. So I think making that four-way would do two things. It would slow that traffic down as you come southbound on Fisher. It would stop the traffic flow east-west on Fisher. And it would just slow everything down in the area. So that's the problem we're having with the roundabout. It was elaborate and it looked really nice, but we didn't feel that it was safe for pedestrians.
What about the traffic, how much increase of traffic are you anticipating in that area? Because there's a lot of rooftops there, I see. And the elementary kid there will be going to eat. I'm looking at the middle school and high school.
They walk.
How do you anticipate the traffic pattern over there, during the day, morning to evening?
There will be an increase in traffic, no question. We did a pretty comprehensive traffic study
I'm sure you
that
did.
we submitted to Plan Commission. And the reason that we phased our development is that at phase 2, there's no impact to the existing intersection at Fisher Calumet. There is impact, but it doesn't cause the intersection to fail.
Pardon me.
It doesn't cause the intersection to fail, meaning,
Okay.
they graded A, B, C, D.
Right.
So that, but if we exceed 300,000 feet, there will likely be, the way we left it with Plan Commission is that once we get to that point, and we're only platting for phase 2 now anyway. So if it became an issue, we would certainly we would foresee doing the traffic improvements at Fisher Calumet
I'm just
before we
wondering
do phase 3.
how many students are walking in that area that you're going to be increasing the traffic? They would be walking towards the high school, middle school. Is that going to affect any crossings or, just, I don't know what traffic pattern, is it going to be a lot of traffic pattern at 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock? Or what, that you're going to be adding to this area?
We will, but I think what's gonna help a lot is as we extend the Pennsy Greenway,
All right.
right through that Pennsy Greenway is gonna fall on the north side of Fisher now,
Okay.
because of the Nick Deep grade crossing. So you can see right there, it's gonna go north of Fisher. So it probably, I mean, if you're coming down, if this whole area is gonna walk over to the high school.
Right.
You're either, let's suppose that you're gonna come down Fisher, you're gonna have an easier time right now because you're gonna stay north of Fisher Street
Okay.
all the way.
Okay. Yeah, that's the safe part. You're going to stay north of Fisher.
Yeah.
I have a planning question and a park question. From this angle here, if you're taking Timmerick, and you're gonna veer off to the left, and you're gonna go to a stop sign, presumably, right?
Correct, yes.
Now, that person that lives across there doesn't have headlights shining into their living room, but now will have lights shining into their living room on a consistent basis.
Correct.
Does it make sense to move the T intersection so that it's going into the lot that, and it's probably too close to that intersection probably. Because you purchased that last piece of parcel, but the two neighbors are now gonna have headlights just roaming back and forth at night. I mean, I would be. Planning question, not a park question.
Right, right.
I don't know if that was thought of. 2, you have these drawings on 5 something. It looks pretty. They're pretty pictures. Are you using it on 4H? are you stating that you would plant those for us and then we would just maintain them, or these are just great ideas that we could possibly do?
No, these are all concepts. We propose, we don't know right now. These were just very broad-based graphics that we use to try to get the feel for what we want the park to look like, the business park. So these are just very, very
It would
conceptual.
be up to us to do whatever we wanted to do.
Yeah, we were thinking that the design would pretty much be a blank canvas where we would grade, we'd do all the demolition, we would grade the sites, hydroseed, leave a nice flat level lawn, basically.
Tom, is that question about Timmerick, I'm sure it went through plan commission that way, right?
Yeah, that's been discussed. That was a concern that was raised as far as review for the headlights. Yeah, it is a concern that's been raised, and anytime there's a subdivision, there'll be a public hearing. So
And those people are notified?
people will be notified. The public
Oh,
hearing
that still hasn't gone through.
hasn't taken place yet. The public hearing hasn't taken place yet.
Gotcha.
So there will be.
I'll watch it on TV.
No, we have done a fair amount of outreach on this.
So
project,
I
and-
understand, I'm just saying, if I was that resident and I'm used to that corner piece, or triangle piece, looking across at the concrete or the trees, and all of a sudden then it switches now to, I'm gonna have cars and I have to pull into my driveway and you're gonna have to shoot across. It's just, I don't know. I know it's disruption. I know change is difficult, but it's something that I would be happy.
Yeah, I agree with you. Those are people we have to talk with.
Yeah.
And we've treated these other neighbors. We acquired their homes very well. We intend to do the same thing with this particular home, but that's one home and one problem.
Yeah, I don't know any of these homeowners, so I just imagine if I was there.
No, it's definitely, you can't argue. I mean, it is inconvenience to that home.
What's that? One home, one property.
But there's also, there's a pretty substantial benefit to another 200 homes.
I understand, and I understand the assessed value impact that's there as well.
That's not a good statement.
That's all my questions. That was rare.
So the overall process, and Tom's here, and maybe can correct me if I'm wrong, just as I try to summarize this. What Saxon is bringing to Plan Commission, or what they want to bring to Plan Commission, is an overall vision plan for the area of the old former Lansing Country Club, and obviously the access to that. What they're seeking here today is a conditional, preliminary approval of whether or not this is something that you consider or not as it pertains to Evergreen Park. Obviously, the park board is the owner of that particular parcel. I will tell you from our standpoint, it isn't, it's a green space. It's really what it is. Minimally, the biggest use that that park gets is a dog walking thorough pass through there. But I think that that's something I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of from that perspective. If you are open to it, he still has to go through that process to the planning commission and all the various approvals that they need to do at that level too. So that's really what he's bringing here before you today for your consideration. I think you hear that feedback, and if you were prepared to make any kind of action on it, but I think more than anything, I think Gary wants to hear your feedback.
Yeah, I don't think our test. Large,
Yeah.
I mean, there's things on here are gonna have to charge too, but I don't think ours.
Yeah, you're right.
Right, so I don't mean, that just, there's not a motion. Is there?
But, I mean, if you so choose to make a motion, that's your
I mean-
choice, but I mean, and I think ultimately that's what Gary's asking
You're looking
for,
for a
but,
motion on this?
Yeah, what I would like to ask you,
Or ask Mr. Webb, what would we need?
well, what I would like to have is to go to Plan Commission, public hearing, and knowing that we are going to impact Evergreen Park. We know that there's going to be some rezoning that has to be done there. Yeah, we know we have to deal with the residents that's going to be off, that could be somewhat disadvantaged by the headlights. We can take care of that, but I think the big issue here we're trying to just get some concurrence on is that you would be okay if we gave you additional land to expand Evergreen Park and we reconfigured it in the way that we're showing, knowing that it's tying into a bigger picture here, which is the extension of the Pennsy Greenway and the opportunity to create these other green spaces along the Pennsy Greenway, which is going to add a tremendous benefit to Munster in terms of walkability, bikeability.
So just a motion to concur with the presentation that you gave us today regarding the park issues on this matter. So you can go to the town and say that this was brought before the park and they agreed. Am I right? That's what you just said.
Exactly, yes.
Next one.
Yeah, so if I could just add a little bit, there's all sorts of different approvals that need to happen for this project. There's some town council approvals that need to take place with respect to easements and dedications of land and acceptance of road dedications. There's a number of plan commission approvals that need to happen as well, and then the redevelopment commission is also involved. So there's all these kind of pieces that are sort of like this, and they need to all come together. So this meeting is just kind of, here's the park board's piece. You don't have plans for this park that this project would disrupt or mess up in any way. You're not dedicated to leaving this park footprint the way it is. You're open to reconfiguring it and sort of retooling it to make it work, trusting that the plan commission will address the comments from Mr. Ripe here and all these other issues that are kind of hanging out there. So that's sort of why you might feel like, well, it's a little bit limited what you're doing, but it's kind of just an important piece that needs to happen.
So it's basically, it's a passive park now, it's gonna stay a passive park. And
It
there's
is,
no
and
plan to build on it.
I think the other one, and Mr. Warple said it, but this area, this hub of an area, it is a confluence of a bunch of trails. The Pensy's there, the Monine comes there, the Fisher Street Trail, and then the potential for what Illinois and Lansing and through Cook County Forest Preserve are supposed to bring connectivity through that. And in the development, he realizes that plan and is receptive to making sure that connection there, opportunity really happens. So it kind of creates some green space around that confluence of these pathways in that area. Something else just on not necessarily in regards to this, but just something for you to be aware of. If you have ever ridden the Fisher Street path, when you get to Public Works, there's kind of a wraparound path around the NIPSCO substation there. When the South Shore goes in, that is not going to be there. We're not going to have a crossing at the South Shore where that currently crosses. So the crossings have to occur at Fisher. So that we hopefully, as a town, we're trying to seek to have one on the south side of Fisher there. We may not. There may not be enough space between the utilities that are there and all the other things there. So that northern side stretch from what's currently the Monon to west across Manor going towards Pennsy is really a kind of a key in your space for our pathways in town. Just for something for you.
Yeah, I just want to add, another thing thanks for that, Mark, but if you look at 4F again, I don't want to underscore the importance of what this area is going to look like. If you look at the opportunity at green space number 4, green space number 5, and number 3, that lake on the Indiana side is much larger than the lake at Centennial Park. So this becomes an incredible green space focal point of this whole master plan development. Whether or not we open that up to recreation, I don't know. We haven't gotten that far yet. We don't intend on really using it, but it's a remarkable feature. And if you haven't, it's hard to see, and that's the beauty of this project is that you can't really see it from Munster. You have to work pretty hard to get back there right now. But once you're back there, it's a fairly spectacular piece of property.
Mark, are we gonna have, is there gonna be parking in those parks?
In the Evergreen Park properties? No, I would say.
I think we just gotta cut it right.
Right.
And if he says there's really no big extra cost to cutting it, then
People go in there now and fish,
People fish in those lakes a lot.
I mean, just out of curiosity, this park, is that going to be owned by the Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we'll own,
It's private, yeah.
Oh, I get it.
yeah, we'll own
It's
that.
a private.
You'll own that.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a private park.
We'll own that, we'll maintain
Got
it. It'll look more, what we intend is have it to look more like an entrance to a Class A office park you'd see in Oak Brook or Naperville. You know.
What do you do? I'm gonna make a motion to accept the
Let's
property.
wrap it up.
Yeah, I feel like we got enough people here.
I'll second it.
You can word it any way you want. We'll accept it.
As long as the safety
There's
concerns
no
are issued
extra-
or addressed,
Well, you have, in his cover letter here, are we looking at accepting that? Request of additional collateral with those details?
Yes.
I think that kind of, I believe that would cover
As
that.
presented to us
As
today, the
presented.
document that was presented us today, I move that we accept it.
See, there's the
Moved and
attorney.
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Right. Done.
Thank you, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, we're standing around. Sorry.
Said I, what we adjourn.
Moved, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
I love that.